Right on. Glug, glug, glug. I don't have a drink. I'm dehydrating myself. I've been staring at the Epstein files all day. Um, Luckily, I mean, I'm not looking at a really you know, child abuse. It's more, um, conspiratorial, global geopolitical networking to destroy the world order kind of stuff. But, you know, um, this is going to be an interesting episode. So I've got a couple really quick updates on the Middle East because I do want to let you guys know what's going on generally in the area. There's a couple quick updates I'm going to give you. But this show is going to be about I've been digging through the Epstein files all morning. Okay. Probably been doing this for five-ish hours now. And I went in looking for one name, Tom Barrack. And I found something interesting. And so in the last, several hours, I've been able to construct a timeline of a series of meetings. And, I'm trying to discern exactly what the meeting was about. So, but I'm going to share everything that I've found with you so far. And you can look at it together. I am by no means done here, but it is interesting. And I'll show you guys what I have. And maybe if you guys want, I put out a post. But if you want to go and look for some of these names in the files and send me the links for the PDFs or the articles, that would be awesome because there's a ton of stuff to go through here. But we've been able to do some creative searching, and it's very interesting what I think we're looking at right now. And I'm excited to share it with you guys. I don't know where it's going to go, but I do know, especially considering the state of things in the Middle East, I'm focusing my attention there and to kind of what's going on in the region because it is very evident for sure that Epstein had a vested interest there. But before we go too far in anything else, make sure you hit the like button. Hit it right now. Hit the like button. I want to see the heart start scrolling. If you're watching the video, hit the like button. If you haven't already subscribe because you get geopolitics and you also get interesting things like this when I go and investigate and look into these things and kind of fuse my knowledge of the global geopolitical realm with investigating things like this and Epstein. So it's a very unique perspective I get to offer you guys, and I hope it's useful. So let me go ahead and really quick, I'm going to start by going over maybe 5 minutes, 5-10 minutes. We're going to talk about the Middle East, and then I'm going to show you what we've found so far in these Epstein files. So the reason I do want to cover the Middle East really quick is just because is really just because it's looking like something's about to happen. So we do want to just make sure I give you guys the quick TLDR on Iran. So I'm going to do that really quick and we'll get into it. So wherever you're watching, make sure you hit the heart button. Make sure you like and subscribe. And if you're watching on Banner and Backbone, make sure you find me as well over here at the Firebrand Project, where I do this show as well. So, my friends, it is February 19th, 2026. I am reporting to you from the fascist states of America, and the world is on fire. So, let's talk about it. Jeffrey Epstein edition, I guess. So, we will see here. So, thank you guys all so much for joining me today. And let's talk really quick about what's going on around Iran and a couple little things coming out of the Middle East. So, the first thing I want to talk about when it comes to Iran is that it looks like the tensions kind of are coming to a head. The United States is probably waiting until after the Olympics to strike Iran. Iran has been fortifying itself now for well over a month here. They've been conducting they conducted a exercise in the Strait of Hormuz, which was very interesting. We've talked about the United States has continued to move assets to the region in really staggering numbers, considering the total amount of resources that it has available to deploy. So, really staggering just overall deployment in that regard. So, what do we know? As far as I know, from Sunday to Monday, and we're talking about last Sunday. So on Sunday and Monday, we've got open source analysts flagging another 18 F-35s, possibly more, going to the Middle East from Lakenheath, which is the base where they are basically ferrying all of these fighters through in the UK. That means that those F-35s now consist a force of 30 F-35s now in the region, including another that now includes 35 F-30 F-35s, 24 F-15E Strike Eagles, 6 EAG electronic warfare jets, and 12 A-10C attack planes. I thought they were supposed to retire the the A-10 Warthogs. So, super weird that they're still using that. So it's interesting. I think that they're finally stacking up here. On Tuesday, so yesterday, these movements they continued. Another 12 F-22s were sent there from Langley, and 36 F-16s. And we're still seeing more airlifters and early warning, jets. They're the general consensus basically is that the they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna do it. I think they're gonna wait until after the Olympics, generally speaking. And I think the United States is about to have a very rude awakening when they do it. So, you know, if the UK, I didn't see that the UK is shutting down bases. I didn't see that. I'd have to verify that, but that would be interesting. Yep. Okay. This just came out. All right. Yeah. So the UK has come out and said that they are not going to allow the US to use any British bases to strike Iran. What's going to happen to the people of Iran? They're going to be annihilated. They're going to blow up, indiscriminately blow up tons and thousands of people. An air campaign like what they're setting up is not, they're not going to be striking targets. They're going to be firebombing everything. So it's going to be very horrible for the people of Iran. This is not an operation that's going to protect them or save them. And I also think it's going to end poorly for the United States. I could be wrong, but I don't think they come out. I don't think the U.S. comes out feeling really good. It's unfortunate to say, but there really is, in my mind, no way they're not doing it. As I was saying, they just wouldn't commit that many resources to the region if they're not going to do it. You just don't move. Like, they're taking air defenses away from Okinawa. We're talking about Japan, Taiwan. They've stripped Patriot batteries from bases that are now vulnerable so they could go to Iran. This is just this one of the stupidest things I think we've ever seen the United States do ever in the history of ever. It just goes to show that these guys have rocks for brains, and they think very highly of themselves. No amount of jets is going to, when a missile hits a U.S. destroyer and kills 30, 40 sailors and they start shooting down jets, we'll see. We'll see. So, I don't think they're bluffing. I don't. I think they're going to wait. Speaking of Israel, the new death toll in Gaza, further analysis has come out, and the numbers are horrific. They're even worse. And probably the most concerning thing and the most horrific thing that I have read today was that 72,000 have been killed since 2023. And the number right now, between October 23 and January 2025, was 75,200. And the study also found that women and children accounted for 56% of those killed. So, yeah, over half of the people that have been killed in Gaza have been women and children. So, if you're ever going to argue that this action in the Israel in Palestine is about killing terrorists, how is killing 50% of those people, children and women, how is that fighting terrorism? So it's just ridiculous. Riyadh is moving to actually replace the cables, replace Israel with Syria for fiber optic cables to Greece. So they are moving around Israel. And U.S. officials are still currently pestering the Saudi government to back these strikes in Iran. And they were also using thermobaric weapons, which is a war crime in Israel as well. But we have to remember that the U.S. sold them those weapons, which means the U.S. is committing those crimes. The U.S. is 100% complicit in Gaza. And if the United States wanted to stop, it would stop. So in terms of the Middle East, that's kind of what's going on. There's some meddling in the Iraqi election with Iran and the United States. They're sparring over who's going to get this nomination. We've got a lot of kind of uncertainty in that area, Turkey, and it's just a mess. It's just a mess in the Middle East. So they are starving people in Cuba. This is a really sick regime in the United States. So that's really, I think, all you need to take away from what's going on in Iran. I think they're going to wait to the end of Olympics. I think that they're ramping up their military presence more and more and more. It's really undeniable at this point that they're going to do something. So that's really where it's going to be. Whether they go for a decapitation strike at this point. Khamenei has named I want to say at least 3 successors. So, he's set up his regime to be ready for whatever comes from the United States. But it's going to be a shit show. And there's going to be a lot of war crimes, which is why I'm sure the UK is saying you can't use, our bases to commit war crimes. So, yeah, I mean, these planes are we're going to get torn up. This is going to be a demonstration of what it looks like when, you're playing against someone who can hit back, not Venezuela. So let's talk about the Epstein Files. Let's talk about what's going on here. I'm going to fuse tomorrow the Middle East and Latin America together. So we do a newsletter, and it'll be interesting. So it's really quite interesting how that's going to go. But I want to talk to you guys about what I found in the Epstein Files, and I want to talk about what we found here. Maybe you guys have some ideas too. So first thing I want to talk about in general is I just want to talk about where I started. Okay, so where's the first file that I looked at, and what can we get from that? So the first thing I looked at was this, and it was a file. It was a text thread between Tom Barak and Jeffrey Epstein. So let me pull this up and we'll look at it together here. So we love chocolate. Eat some chocolate, friends. So let's check this out. So if you look here, on my screen. Move this here. Perfect. Let's look at this thread. Okay, so he says Tom Barak. This is on August 28th, 2016. Okay, so this is about 6 or 7 months into the presidency, Trump's first presidency, and you receive a message from Tom Barrack here. He says, in which Epstein tells him to download Signal. Okay, he's downloading Signal, and he tells him that asking him when he's in New York and if they want to have dinner with Woody. I'm at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't looked through a lot of this, but I'm pretty sure dinner with Woody means raping kids, right? So I feel like I've seen Epstein use dinner with Woody many times, and I think that means raping kids. I could be wrong, but he wasn't hanging out with Woody Allen all the time. Like, Woody Allen was not attached to the man's hip. So, is Woody Allen always there? Like, why is Woody Allen always there? If he is, why is he constantly with Woody Allen? Or is it code for something? Like, I don't understand, because he's not necessarily at all of these meetings. So just because he's saying Woody Allen doesn't mean that Woody Allen's there. If that's the case, what does it mean? And they use code, but he uses it repetitively all the time. So I don't know, were Epstein and Woody Allen just that close all the time? But if they weren't, we know they use code words all the time. And I've seen this across almost like all of these invitations. It's about Woody Allen or lunch and meals. We know that they use those terms. But so at this point, Barrack says that he's in Turkey and won't be back from New York until Monday. So he then sends a name without anything else of a man named Mr. David Howerton. Okay, David Howerton is a big part of this puzzle that I think that this is really important. This is one of those things I looked into as well. So all we have is this thread. But what stuck out to me is two things, okay? Who's our Saudi friend? Our Saudi friend, I'm pretty sure that our Saudi friend is a guy by the name of Prince Bandar bin Khalid Al Faisal, and he was involved in some different development projects at the time. He's also was described as a Saudi friend in other contexts, and was very involved in facilitating private industrial and aviation contracts. One of the things that Barrack was working on at the time was something called the Marshall Plan, and it's about moving nuclear energy into the United States. That was with Saudi Arabia and the UAE that these efforts were ongoing. So it would make sense that Barack is down there. He also has a relationship and works with the company that Howerton owns called Hart Howerton, and they are a architecture / like development company. Okay, so we see after this meeting that you start and you're able to find a thread. Okay, and this thread I've been able to piece together a pretty significant part of it, but I haven't been able to. I think there's more, and I'm still trying to find it. So, this is the first email that we're going to see here that I flagged. All right. And so in this email, we zoom in, we see Leslie Groff, who sent this email on the 28th, okay, in which he confirms that Barrack is going to join a lunch on the day that he returns from Turkey or wherever he is. So on the day he returns from Turkey, that lunch is going to take place at 12:30. This could be to Epstein. I think this is to Epstein, but I'm not certain. And then, interesting, we're able to discern another member of the meeting here. So I've been able to determine all 4 people that were at this meeting. This is where we start to see the addition of Barrick. All right. So we know that we can place Ehud Barak at this meeting. Okay. There's tentative appointments here. And the other person on this email, Merwin de la Cruz, this guy is one of the other assistants for Epstein. I've found several emails of him like changing codes for Epstein's apartments and arranging things as well. So the next thing we stumble across here, if we keep looking, is the next part of this thread where we're able to determine the next individual who is coming. And this gets interesting. Vitaly Churkin is also joining the lunch. So Churkin was a former Russian diplomat to the UN. He had a relationship where he worked closely with Epstein. And even there's some files showing that Epstein was helping mentor Churkin's son, Maxim Churkin. So we've established now that Barak, Ehud Barak, Vitaly Churkin, and Jeffrey Epstein are meeting, and they do meet on the 29th of August. So this is where I started, okay, that we were able to confirm that this meeting took place. And my questions after this were, okay, so we have kind of an agenda. Let's see if we can find any other information on this meeting. The other question was, how do I answer this for myself? Who is De La Cruz and who is Groff? Now, Leslie Groff, as far as I can discern, and many of you probably already know this because you've probably been looking at this more than me, Leslie Groff is like the executive assistant to Jeffrey Epstein, but he shares that job with other people, right? So De La Cruz is also does a lot of things for Epstein on the day-to-day, arranging apartments and changing codes. So, we can talk a little bit about one of these threads. I think it gives us insight into how they actually operated. And so this is where it does get gross. And not it's all implied, right? But like we know what these things mean. So we see email here says, so blank is going. Thanks. All right. So they've confirmed that one of the 4 people is going to this meeting. And then they also say, hey, I'm on my way. Could you have blank buy it? Okay. Buy what? Can you buy snacks for today with Tom Barrack? If you get those little sandwiches, will you get the prosciutto one? Are they actually getting food or are these children? I'm not sure. But here's a couple things I think that is important, right? So the amount of space, all right, is very small. We can discern, right? We know that there's only so many names, right, who are actually in attendance. There's only so many names in attendance. So we have to, establish whether or not, like how long that name is and whether or not who would like fit that space, right? So we know that there's Tom, Ehud, Vitali, and Epstein. This looks like 4 characters to me. Okay. So this looks like 4 characters to me. So I am going to think, my understanding and my guess, okay, is that this is Ehud. That is what looks right. If you look 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 characters here, and if you just go over 4 on each side of space, that's the name that looks like. That's the thing that looks like the name because we've confirmed those 4 people, and there is a document that ultimately confirms that there are 4 people involved. Okay. Uh, there's another email here, and this is someone we're going to have to look into, but it was a side tangent. So we're going to come back to it. All right. But this is another very valuable email here because it puts everyone in the same place. This is where we can confirm all 4 people. So check this out. At which point you have this email. It's very short. I'm assuming this is to Jeffrey, but you have the confirmation of the email where you have Tom Barrack, Vitaly Churkin, Ehud Barak, and Jeffrey Epstein, right? So 4 people are confirmed at this meeting. We can establish there's 4 people there. So from here, the question then becomes, where is what's going on? What's the context around this meeting? Well, I don't really have a ton. However, we can actually see the process to a degree, and with more digging, who actually attended this meeting. All right. So Ehud Barak, I believe, is the former prime minister of Israel, if I am correct. If someone correct me if I am wrong. And Tom Barrack is a longtime friend, associate of Trump Kushner. He is the manager of Colony Capital. He is one of the special envoys that represents the United States. He has been constantly around the Middle East for over a decade now, and he's definitely deeply ingrained in the investing and real estate and development world in the Gulf, in the Middle East. So this is kind of where we start to see, okay, where does Vitaly, right? It makes sense. Everyone there, it kind of makes sense for everybody who was there before, until you see, why is Vitaly involved? Like it seems like this is a last minute thing. And we see this in this thread, iMessage thread here, where we're able to establish that there's a communication here, 2016 on the 5th. They don't message for quite some time. And then you go down to here and we get to August of 2018. Okay. Everything up to this point, they're kind of just talking, they're meeting. Vitaly thanks, Epstein for he thanks Epstein for mentoring his son. He says he's a great teacher, which is horrific. And so then we get to this point here where I stop at the timestamp, because now we're in the same month here. And as you keep going down, you get to the 28th. And Epstein invites him. This is like a last minute invitation. He says, Ehud and Tom are going to be at the house tomorrow. You're more than welcome. And he says, sure, come over at 1. So in which Tom Pritzker is mentioned here as well, but this is next month. So I kind of let this go. The more important part here is we can again further establish the timeline of this meeting and when Vitaly was invited with this thread of messages. At which point is when I wasn't able beyond this to actually confirm any other meeting at that point. So I know they met at this time, and I know that they had this meeting. I don't know exactly what happened in the meeting. However, what we can do is look for context about what happened afterwards. And I was able to put together a little timeline here to establish what I think at least one of the topics of that meeting was. So our story starts here with Tom Barrack, Barrack, and Tom Barrack is messages Epstein. Epstein messages Barrack on this new messaging platform, where he says that he met with a Saudi. The Saudi, he then says that he's in Turkey, but will be there on Monday. Epstein proceeds to organize a meeting with Ehud Barak, Tom Barrack, and Vitaly Churkin, where they have a discussion on something where I presume they were offered children for a entree for lunch, is what it appears. So after this meeting, though, I want to go back to the sharing of Howerton and what does this name mean? So this is right before the 2016 election. This is yes, yes, correct. So this is all happening right before the election, and it's interesting. You see Epstein's position with Barrack and Barrack in particular. He had a pretty strong position in the in the Trump government. So it really does appear from where I'm at that Epstein is kind of pushing his relationship with Barrack to have that kind of relationship. But we can kind of speculate what this meeting was about. And we can do that for a couple reasons. The first is because we know what hypothetically speaking, hypothetically, they were raping kids for lunch. I can't prove it, but what else did these people do? Ehud in particular was a particularly disgusting man. So this is coming right after he comes back from this meeting. He brings in the Russian diplomat, which I thought was interesting, with the Israeli diplomat. And so you have this Russian Israeli influence meeting with the billionaire Barrack after meeting with the Saudis, in which the time they're talking about all of this, we're able to kind of dig up that they're working on this energy project. But the sharing of the name that sorry guys, really quick, let me swap this. So the sharing of the name Howerton is important because if you look up Howerton, he's in allege is a friendly verb. Yeah, we can allege. We basically can establish after this meeting that they did reach out to Howerton's company, which is Hart Howerton, and we can we can prove that that happened because we have a thread of emails here where we're able to determine that Groff is reaching out to the executive assistant of Hart Howerton about a contract. So what we can see here, and I have all these emails, so I'm going to share these with you. And the really important thing that I've noticed here, at least, and I've asked other people, and if you have recommendations on how to best go through these threads, please share that. But we can see here a series of emails, and those emails start on the 2nd, actually on the 2nd, right? So at the very beginning, as I'm going to share this here with you guys so you can see, we were able to find this email here, very short email. It's just a confirmation from one of his assistants, essentially setting up a Skype call with Jim Tinson, who is the CEO of Hart Howerton. Okay, and you see that Skype call here as well that they set up. Okay, so following this Skype call and this email that's on the 2nd, you have at least one Skype meeting. And then eventually we do find a follow-up from Jim Tinson. So after this, they have the meeting. And on the 6th, we now see them meeting, getting a follow-up email. I assume this is from Groff. I think this is from Groff. And so they're reaching out now for a contract, right? So they're looking for a contract. And what is this contract for? Well, we don't really, I was able to figure out what I think this contract is for. I can only, of course, allege, but I do think I know what the contract was for. And so we follow up on the 6th, and then we can go and see this email here, which was received on the 7th. So on the 7th, what did you see received? Okay, so Hart Howerton to Jim Tinson from who? Well, again, this is probably Groff. But so what you see here, where we actually have Jim Tinson basically give feedback on the email. So he says, I enjoyed my discussion with Jeffrey last week and the chance to discuss our interdisciplinary team of planners, architects, landscape architects, and interior designers could help set the vision for Great St. James Island. And this is where we start to see what the motivation is, at least for the sharing of the Howerton, the name Howerton and Hart Howerton, the company. Okay, he says, as discussed, I have attached a package to further introduce how we work and the range of environments we have helped shape around the world. I look forward to the follow-up. There is a portfolio PDF attached to this, and I would like to find it. But I haven't found it because I haven't been able to look at everything just yet. So following this meeting on the 7th, we see a string of effectively messages. We see this string of emails, which I believe is coming from Groff. And it starts on the like the 16th. I believe it actually starts on the 9th. After this email, we had a bunch of sources here. And so as I've been putting this together, it's kind of hard to tell. So, and then you do have a confirmation email as well that was sent to Epstein on the 1st of September, that Thursday. Okay. So he sent that to Epstein, and Leslie Groff is the person who was coordinating this. So we can probably safely bet that it's Groff who's organizing the rest of these emails, because he's handling this particular contract for Epstein. And then we saw on the 6th where you see them asking for a contract. Very simple email on the 6th. And you have these questions. Actually, you see Leslie still emailing who we know, Diane, who is the executive assistant of Jim at Hart Howerton, asking for this contract. And this is a pattern. I mean, he keeps asking for this contract again and again. And so in several emails, he's following up about this contract. And, he'll go back to Epstein in another email and say, hey, this is what they said. They're still busy. And this guy's on traveling. And Epstein is clearly very anxious about this. I mean, they're asking, like, they're being belligerent. They're pestering. So, in figuring out what's going on there, it's kind of hard to tell. And so teach Shane to say allege. I'm going to allege. I'm alleging. And so it's really interesting when you start to look even further into this, because now where I'm looking is, okay, why don't we look at Great St. James? Was Great St. James? So you're actually able to look into this, and this is as far as I've gotten. So we're approaching the end of this particular rabbit hole that I have started to go down. However, there's two other little side tangents that I've been on that also I've been able to look at. So this document essentially appears to be the title for the sale of Great St. James to Jeffrey Epstein's estate, if you will. And so we can look at this together. And he buys this from a guy by the name of Christian Kieher. So we need to look up who this guy is. And that's one of the things that was very interesting, is you see that he ends up purchasing this particular island for a small sum of $17.5 million. And so there is going to be a keyword list as well, like and any of the names you're going to see in here as well, I'll add. But right now I'm just building out I'm just trying to figure out the scope of what's going on. So this here, they purchased this on the 18th of January. So now we really can establish at least that this is when he really started looking at developing Great St. James. And that's really important because we know that they started working on this actually farther into the year. And at this point where they're in August and they're talking about this contract, they've already gone through a bunch of, the official red tape, if you will, because we have this document from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services where he has to state that since he is a sex offender, that he has to advise them that he is not moving his residence from Little St. James to Great St. James, and that he does not intend to sleep there, but he will visit regularly and using caution, and requests that Great St. James be added to his list of addresses while his permanent address remains the same. So this is one of those things where you see, again, looks like his lawyer here, Darren Indike, signed off on this, sent this letter. And so this is a timeline where we're at least able to kind of establish that the purchase of Great St. James and this meeting, he's networking with other people about getting this island developed. And there's actually a couple instances where we can actually say, oh, like this, he's been looking around. And I've been able to find a couple things with targeted search terms. So a great term to use is Great St. James. And using that term, I was able to pull up a couple interesting things, including the document of the actual criminal document, as well as this, which is super interesting. This is one of the most interesting things I've seen because this is a pitch. And the interesting thing about this pitch, if you're in business, this is called a deck. Right? And so this deck is a pitch for this company, Radica, and they want to develop this land, not Hart Howard, right? Which is interesting, right? Hart Howard, which is interesting. So multiple people were bidding on this opportunity, right? So this is not the only like thing like this. And I know that one of the things you can do is dig into this. And this is one of the things I think would be very effective and important is this. So I think what I'll do at least is I'll basically take a lot of this and I will put a keyword search list in the description of this video. And what you can do if you want is take those keywords, search them, and send them in an email to my personal Firebrand Project email. But we can look at this zoning plan, right? And so we see how they want to build it. There's a grand pavilion, the main private beach, a main dock, a ladies' residence, a master office, cinemas, interest Xmas Cove, an existing landing dock, ATV shortage, the owner's terrace, an interest point, barrier from bad views, the beach area, second pavilion, a tree, a French garden, guest houses, existing movie rooms, semi-private offices, more private offices, contemplation points, massive buildings, sundial, Capri, all these things, right? And this might be as well where you're seeing here, yoga beach, main kitchen, laundry, caretaker's house. Look at this is the Great James, and these are the private common areas, okay? So these are their concepts. This is what they want to do. You've got Great St. James. This is how they want to, make this new, these massages. This is where Epstein does his fucking dirty. So who is in here? Because what you're seeing, guys, is this is them building These companies are pitching to build a sex trafficking hub. This isn't just a house, right? We know what they did at these places. So whoever's pitching to build these places are the people that are designing the infrastructure. Correct. The infrastructure for raping children and child trafficking, right? So you've got private areas. Okay. You've got this area by the pool, a pedophilia paradise, right? Support columns on the edges, grill locations, no bugs. What? What? You see that? He says, no bugs, right? There's your proof. He says it right here in the corner. This is catering to your audience, right? You're going to put a little thing in your deck. And so the master office here, you've got more pictures, too many materials. Okay. The ladies areas. This is interesting, right? So materials too rustic. No. So it almost looks like these are responses, right? Like this actually, these comments, right? It could be that this is feedback, or that this is like part of it, right? Steps never. And you just go through this, right? And you can go through this, the private recreation areas, right? What are these? What do you do in a private recreation area? And you've got the French Garden. You've got all these places. I mean, shit. I'll be honest with you. Like, this place looks fucking awesome and I hate it. Of course, that's not what it was. Like, this looks like a great resort. And the fact that, like, it's awful, right? Because it's like, but these are requirements, right? Like, and there's 44 slides here. And, you know, it keeps going. And so here's what we also have been able to find here, that this is not the only pitch. And this is how you know, because at the same time, I have this one here from August 8th, and it's a very short email. And in this email, it's very simple. We don't know who's saying it or who it's from. Again, I would allege that this is our friend Groff, who appears to have been coordinating all of these things, all of these contracts and, you know, relationships for building this particular Great St. James here. So Chad Oppenheim Architects in Miami. Okay, so they're not just looking, right? They're looking at other providers, right? We saw the deeds. We've talked about the deeds. We talked about the deck. And the last thing here is another example. And this is a good name. I haven't been able to look this up, right? So I don't know exactly. But, you know, you can see here that we sent from Epstein to a guy named Fabrice Borg, a USB drone movie of Mr. Epstein's islands. And he asked to please confirm the receipt of the USB from Leslie Groff. Okay. So we know that Leslie Groff is sending all these people. So is he sending an actual USB, or are we alleging he's sending pictures of children? I actually think that he probably was sending a USB, because at this point in time, in this timeline, they are, I'll type this name for you. These are his raping layers. Yeah, correct. So he's building his next rape palace. That's why I think this is significant, because we're looking at who built the infrastructure for the rape island, which is super important. It's an angle that I haven't looked at, but that is what it looks like that I'm looking at. This is his base of operations. And it looks to me like he ended up wanting to choose this Hart Howerton company. And I say this because I feel like he's asking for this contract from Hart Howerton. He's being pestering, right? Epstein's constantly asking for this thing. And this is what I have so far. Now, the two things that really stuck out to me about this, and this is one of the primary things I'm looking at, right? Because it appears that in this case, Barrack's reasoning was just networking for this contract. Was, Churkin invited? We don't really know, because it could be that the meeting was about something else, particularly Ehud Barak being there. So that would suggest that it had an alternative meaning as well, and that I think that the sharing of Hart Howerton with Epstein was something different. Like that was an afterthought to a different conversation, something Epstein does a lot, as I've been reading, and I'm sure people who know more than I do can confirm, is that he was always on the phone, right? He's always making phone calls. A lot of these messages show exactly that they're making phone calls, and there's really no better way to demonstrate this than this other interesting individual that I have stumbled upon, who I have taken a particular interest in. And it's a guy who we know by the name of Terj. That's Terj. Okay. And Terj is very interesting. From what I can gather about Terj, I think that he is part of some sort of diplomatic delegation. He's some sort of diplomat. And I stumbled upon his name actually in an interesting way, because I was actually looking for more things about Tom, more information about chats between Tom Barrack and Epstein. And so I was keyword searching Barrack's name. And when I was searching Barrack's name, I saw one tiny little email. All right. And it was literally one sentence. And I'm like, who is that? Right. And so I went and I started looking at this guy's name. And I started searching for Terj. I'm going to call him Terj. I could be wrong, but he says September 20th. Right. So this is a week before the meeting that we're talking about, right? This is a week before the meeting. This is in September. So this is the next month. And Tom and Barrack and Terj. So who is Terj? What does he do? So I was able to kind of come through and look at a bunch of different correspondences and find quite a few between Terj and Epstein. And they are super interesting because of the way that they actually communicate. This Terj guy really admires Terj Rod Larson. There you go. Okay. So we know Terj Rod Larson. So what was his job? That can help us. Terje Rod Larson. He's a Norwegian diplomat. Aha. Yep. Okay. He to the UN, right? Yep. That's what I thought. Okay. So I didn't know this guy existed, but I was pretty sure he worked for the UN. And this makes total sense. And so I also think that all of this can in some way be looped back to Palestine. I don't know how yet, but I know that this meeting and this circle around the Middle East, particularly Turkey. Turkey is at the epicenter of Epstein. In fact, I'm certain of it. There's over 12,000 mentions of Turkey in the database. I just looked it up. So if you go to the Epstein Files database, right? And I want to tell you guys the number because it was like, holy shit. That's like a lot, right? Like that's a lot of So if we go to this library, right, and I search Turkey, so I'll show you, right? Like, let's just do this together. There's no reason we can't look at this together because, like, you guys are teaching me stuff right now. So if we go here and I look at Turkey, what's interesting when you search Turkey is what type of things are being searched. So 2,000 mentions of Turkey. And a lot of them are articles about what's happening in Syria at the time. Okay. So it's 2012. These go back farther. I mean, they're talking about Turkey and Syria all the way back to the 2010s. The situation in Syria, in particular, when you understand geopolitics, you have to understand the tension between Syria and Turkey because the SDF, or the Kurds, if you will, that live on the border of Turkey. Turkey considers them terrorists, and they were backed by the United States for a long time. And Tom Barrack is currently involved in negotiating in Syria with these individuals, this group on the border with Turkey, and actually trying to get them to integrate into a friendly Syrian government. Whatever they've been doing in Turkey has been going on for over a decade. Whatever they're doing in Turkey has been going on for over a decade. And that is very interesting to me because what I've long felt about when I started to look into the Epstein files is their value is not about, to me at least, the value is not about what happened in the past. It's about what they can help us figure out in the present. And this is an angle I've been watching for a long time. And this can even go back to actually where we're starting to talk about the relationship between MBS and Kushner and all these things. But what I think is important here is establishing when things started to take place, because Turkey, I do think, was working with Epstein. I don't see why Erdogan wouldn't be. He's a dictator, and he's trying to destroy his democracy right now. So here's where I want to show you, because this is where we see a multiple series of conversations between Epstein and Teresh. And this guy just cannot get enough of Epstein. I mean, he is like a super fan. It's uncomfortable. I mean, it's like really uncomfortable. So we'll see here. Let me show you. So a couple of these threads. And so this one here is from 2011. Okay. And so this goes all the way back here. And if we look at Teresh here, we're going to look at what he says to Epstein. He says, "Please call me. Cannot receive SMS for now. What happened? Where are you? Please call me. Please call Teresh." Right? I mean, what this guy is like always like manic, like even his messages. "Can person come to my place? Urgent." Who is person? Confirmed. 5. Okay, what's confirmed? 6:30 to 7. So this guy, I think, is this to me reads as I'm alleging that he's asking Epstein for a child. And actually in these messages, he's constantly asking to visit Epstein's apartments. I am certain that Epstein's apartments were places where you could go to get a kid or a young woman or a young boy, right? The purpose of the apartments were to basically allow people to go to a children, because they will ask, "Can I go to your apartment?" Where he sends an address, where he asks for the very specific address here, which Epstein spawns question mark. And then clearly Teresh figured it out, right? Because he got there. This is very interesting to me. Who is he calling? What's the phone number? We don't know. Now you see another one. He says, "I'm in Saudi. Blackberries do not work here." No, just I sent you. He says, "What? Who's Shukiev?" Don't know who this is. Another question. And FOD wants to build a bigger foundation than Gates. Okay. So who's FOD? It's kind of hard to determine, right? It's like you read all these messages and you're like, okay, well, who's FOD? Who's this? Who's that? Like we keep seeing all these different people. And so what I can say is I just want to double check here. Um, you know, Faisal, right? This is not Faisal. So now Terj is in DC. He does this, right? He's all over the place. Now, this one, again, he's always trying to call Epstein. Here we go. Another one of these. Tried, C-mail, will do. Okay. This is in 2015. All right. He says 2 hours with Ariane. And then he follows up and says, Fabrice, okay. Thank you for delivering me this sex trafficked child. He tells him to call the number. He says, having fun. Disgusting. Disgusting. He says, great. Tried. Again, they're trying to get a hold of each other. And this message is sickening. It says, dear Jeff, thank you for this, for the best and most generous friendship. With you, so challenging. I mean, warmest, right? He's just thanking him. Same to you. He's in Kuwait. All right. This guy's everywhere. And this is why I thought he was in the UN, right? Now he's in Qatar. Now he's wishing a happy birthday back in Bahrain. Now, Thursday. And so he says, now he's going back to Epstein. You want to meet some people in Paris. And then Jean-Christophe Durand, BNP Paribas. I have not had a chance to look into these people, but he's networking. Now we're in 2016. Okay. And I'm trying to stay in a certain time period, right? Like this guy is a former banking executive in the Middle East and Africa. So, right. And Shukyev is a Kazakh politician. All right. So again, thank you, Paul. Right. Thank you for that. I appreciate you guys sharing these names with me. Right. So, and let me put this in the file while I have you guys doing this information here, because this is what I'm doing right now is just work off the cusp. Right. So what I'm sharing with you right now, what I have is what I've done today. So like it might not be as organized, but that's the idea. Right. So this is very interesting though to see that as we develop our pool of characters, we're seeing that it's all around money in the Middle East. Okay, all around money in the Middle East, and that to me really sticks out, because when I'm looking at these different when I'm looking at these different people and I keep seeing it circle back, he's constantly in the Middle East with these Saudis. And this has to do something with energy and development and infrastructure, right? These are weird. Okay. So this is like a call log of something different, case data messages. Okay. And now this is between him and Terj, I believe. Okay. So Epstein sends a bunch of things now, question mark. And then Serge, the sender, right? He says, no, black collar, okay? But you liked black also. And you also like black, the goose brand, winter jacket. Okay, I think they're selling somebody, okay? They're selling somebody. He's picking from a menu. I tried calling you. And he says, I'm head of HR. I'm due to meet the head of HR in Geneva. Okay, so I think that this is Serge Terre. She's in Geneva. And we again see more of these messages. So this is the same type of thread in just a different form. They're talking about the Korean PR diplomatic channels. So there's all kinds of weird money, right? They're talking best headhunters for boards, right? Hendricks, who, and David Bomer, like, who are these people? Okay. They're asking around. Excellent expertise in philanthropic capital. This was interesting. At Foundation Deputy Director. All right. And they probably sent a person. I wasn't able to determine who's doing this. So, fine. Not sure to say about fintech people. It's also worth mentioning, right? You got to go through all of this. Okay. And now he's in Paris. Can I use the email? Now I'm in Luxembourg. Can I use an apartment? He wants to use an apartment. Just met HR, right? And then you go, these are Apple messages, right? So all of this is very, very, very interesting. Geneva is coming up as well. This is very odd. I think this is really important because Terge is part of a larger network that he's doing a lot for Epstein. He's going around and using his position in the UN. And we already know France was investigating an individual who worked for the UN to also handing Epstein sensitive UN documents. Okay. I've got one more of these that I can show you as well. And if you guys want to stay around there, I did some digging into Leslie Groff and as well as Merwin de la Cruz. So I'll finish up showing you this. We'll talk about de la Cruz and then we'll go. And so there's really a lot. I mean, and I know obviously there's 3 million files, right? So like, of course, Shane, there's a lot, duh. But of course there's a lot. I know that, but I haven't looked at this before, right? So, give me, I feel like I probably should have, but cut me some slack because I've been trying to do all these geopolitics, but the amount of time I've put into these geopolitics gives me a incredible perspective as well on these things. And understanding these different cities, like where they are and who's there is really important. So again, this is 2017. So this relationship has continued to move forward. Bahrain, Athens, trying. They're trying to call. Are you up? Okay for Paris. Cool. In a cab to the airport. Tried. Focus. Like, what's going on? Epstein is upset, right? There's all these little instances of where you can tell Epstein gets frustrated. Like he must have been really aggressive. This is crazy, right? Look at this. Hi, could you speak to someone in a bank or financial institution in London for Edward's work experience? Okay, so they're talking about these financial institutions. He says, I'm going to California. Tried. Having dinner with Thorbjorn tonight in Berlin. Who is Thorbjorn? Let's add it to the list. Who's Thorbjorn? Who is it? Let's figure it out, right? What happened to the Indian? The Indian, not sure. Shall we try again? With Indian, muscles are coming from Mong on D. What? What does that mean? He's coming on Thursday. Again, Epstein is confused. This guy's a crackhead. Even just reading his messages, he's a crackhead. And when I say crackhead, he's all strung out, tweaking all the time, right? He says, good morning. We should compare notes. Productive, yada, yada, yada. Empty message. I'm on my way with Mona, Grace, Camila to Ascot. We'll call after. Again, big names here, right? These are all codes, right? We'll see if R shows up. Just arrived in London. Up, morning, tried. Last week of August. 5 days, requirement from school. Send me his bio. And now, this is interesting, okay? Mother, Mona. And now we figure out who these people are, right? Blank is a Norwegian son of diplomats. He grew up in Israel. His mother is Mona, Norwegian ambassador to Israel. Father is a head of the UN Middle East, lived 6 years in New York City, attending Brown, last 3 years at Stowe School, Buckinghamshire, Norwegian ambassador to UK, father, bilingual English and Norwegian. Okay? Guys, this is all about how he's infiltrating the UN. Epstein was doing some crazy shit in the UN. He was in the UN. He was dicking around. He was trying to destroy the UN. Like, that was a definite goal of Epstein and his network, was leveraging the UN to get information on this as well, right? So Thorbjorn Jagland. So we have someone in the chat who's confirmed that he is a diplomat he's a Norwegian diplomat, right? Okay, so we can see here, put him in my document here so I have it as well. But like, look at these things. Do I save all this in the cloud? Yes, I have all of this in the cloud. And I am compiling a little document here myself in terms of what I've been looking at. And I've got this all in one place. So I'll be able to provide a little bit more context in this post for sure. But so here's kind of where the last thing I'll talk about, because this isn't something I think we can really go in as far into, right? Unfortunately, but I do think that it's worth looking into, because this isn't necessarily about the UN, right? Like whatever this is, whatever our friend, and when I say friend, I mean not our friend, De La Cruz does, is a gross job, right? So I'm pretty confident that De La Cruz is a sick man. And for whatever reason, my link isn't working, so I do apologize. Hold on, we'll edit this here, get rid of this part. I'm gonna get rid of this part. Well, that's annoying. I'm sorry, guys. I'll try and get this for you really quick, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. So grab this. There we go. So this is weird. And let's see here. Yeah, I save all of these. I download and save each and every one of these files separately as I look at them, because they will take them down. I think they've been doing that. So check this out. This is where I think, whereas Merwin de la Cruz, here in this thread, you see Leslie Groff tell him to change the codes on various apartments. So door code for 10B. He says, change that. Again, this is in November. New codes for the apartments, 1, 2, 3 apartments here. All right. And then Isabella's old apartment. What does that mean? Right. Yeah, De La Cruz, I think, is an assistant, right? And he says here, 11P and 11J. You can change 7J this morning. Guest is arriving around 2 p.m. 3M is available. Larry will be coming to stay. Who is Larry? Who's Larry? Is it Larry Ellison? Where was Larry Ellison in November 29th of 2016? Where was he? And, must know the codes here. Hey, can you send me a list of vacant apartments so I can change the code? So there's Merwin. Merwin is like a guy on the ground. He's doing, he's doing all the kind of grunt work, it looks like. And seriously, when you look at this here too, I'll show you this one, because I'm like, this one is even weirder. You look at this one and you're like, what is he going on about here? So why is this not working? These things are stupid. I fucked up my links here. Let's see if I can fix this. If not, it's okay. All right. Well, I'll have to go and see if I can find this here as well. So there it is. Got it. Right. So basically that's what I got. Actually, that was a duplicate. So here's what I think I have. I don't have everything, not even close. In fact, I just started, but I think that we are in a spot where we can have directions. Larry Summers, allegedly Larry Summers. Yeah, could be Larry Summers. This is a couple things. So what am I interested in from this? There's really two things I want to figure out. I want to figure out everything I can about this Terj guy, who we now know is the diplomat to the UN, and and if someone could send that to me as well, I'll have to go back through the chat here and grab these names because I'm learning shit like on the fly. You guys are teaching me things here. There you go. Terj connected, right? This guy Terj is this diplomat, right? He's this UN guy. And I know my thoughts don't really sound collected, but like I'm figuring this out as we have this discussion. So I think the next things that you'd probably want to look into is one, Great St. James. Who's buying Great St. James? Who's doing it? Where's the purchase? Who's on the contracts? And what's the timeline that they started to build this thing? The second is, what can we learn about that meeting and who was there in 2016 on August 29th, that Monday, and what were those four men, Churkin, Barrick, Barack, and Epstein, talking about at that lunch? Those are very good questions. And I will, I definitely, I've sent a couple messages to Zev Shalev. Hopefully I can get ahead of him, a hold of him, and we'll chat about it too. But, Terj is going to be a big part of this. I think he might be a key to the UN. And it seems like he was one of Epstein's bitches, but also there's a lot of financial stuff, right? Just in what we saw, he's looking into finances. He wants to get a hold of these banks. Whatever the parallel structure that, they're setting up right now is, whatever that goal is whatever that goal is, must be something that's happening right now. And that's the thing, is we can use this network that already exists to help us figure out what they're doing in the present. And, the things we know are essential in figuring out what we don't know. Yeah, Great St. James was supposed to be the second island, right? So that's this discussion we're having, was that this island, we were seeing the bids for who got to build Great St. James in 2016. And we were able to at least put together a timeline that shows, to at least a certain degree, that this process was ongoing. We can see the title, we can see the various groups of people he reached out to, and this is best evidenced by the Hart-Howerton meeting with the CEO of Hart-Howerton. That's what we can discern there. So we have two things really, I think, that we can look into. And I really think that this is the angle where we can try and take this into the Middle East and Turkey. But everyone in the Epstein Files, it can tell us things about every corner of the world. And, this region, they've been acting like really rich billionaire dictators for a long time. And it would make sense that Epstein is doing this work here. So, guys, if you haven't already, hit the like button, make sure you subscribe. And normally I do geopolitics. This was a very special episode. This was an episode where I think we looked into the Epstein Files a little bit, and we talked about it. And this is something I will keep you guys up to date on, and I'll try and work on kind of in tandem here. But if you guys want to help out with this, if you want to do some of that, if you want to crowdsource and help me crowdsource some of this research, I can give you guys keywords and things to look for. And I will kind of give you names and things to search up in the files in this show recording. And you can send them to me, because putting together the puzzle is not the hard part. The hard part is getting all of the pieces. So if you want to help, out with that as well, and Barrick is a direct bridge to Jared Kushner. And so I'm sure you can find all of these places, but it's a geopolitical cabal, and it was always that way. Uh, we're seeing Europe do some stuff around the Epstein files. This is why I always say geopolitics is so important. This is why I heavily criticize people who don't talk about anything that happens outside of the United States. Uh, it's still disappointing, to see all this coverage of what the president says, when there's things like this to talk about. You know, there's there's a lot of really it's a lot of really valuable people looking into a lot of things, and instead we still see the premier independent journalist talk about Trump all day, every day. I don't need to say his name. He's in the Forbes 30 under 30. I I I don't know. I'm tempted to make a graphic going back of like all the things they've covered in X amount of time, and like it would amount to nothing. It would amount to nothing. It would amount to zero value, other than unless you're up on the gossip. But I digress. Guys, hit the like button. Go ahead and subscribe. If you're a free subscriber and you can become a paid subscriber, let's do it, right? Like, hop in, help me out, come in here and join us at the Firebrand Project. You're going to get up-to-date geopolitics every day, unless I do something like this, but I try and do it every day. And you got to help me keep doing my work, and get this information out to as many people as possible. All right. And the last thing you can do, the most important thing you can do is take these things we talked about today, take them out into the world with you. Make sure you go ahead and you have these conversations with others, and bring these kind of angles into the discussion. Help people see that there's a geopolitical angle to the Epstein files. And as firebrands, it's really up to us to go ahead and look into these different angles of the Epstein files. So this post is going to be, something you can crowdsource. I'm going to give you guys all the information that I've found, and I would love for you guys to contribute by finding relevant files to the things that we talked about in this show today. So with all of that said, guys, thank you so much. You can scan this QR code in the corner, and we can do, and you can go ahead and subscribe to me as well. But yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I know I was a little scatterbrained, but I'm learning here right with you guys as you guys are learning with me. And so this will be great. I'll go ahead and get some of this info out here in the post. So if you're watching it, make sure you go down underneath and you will see all the info that you guys can look up, and let's crowdsource this thing together. Let's figure out exactly how to put this relationship together. Let's see if we can figure out what this meeting was about, and let's see if we can figure out who Epstein wanted to hire to build Great St. James, because we can do that. So let's do it. My friends, thank you so very much. I will see you tomorrow for a great show in geopolitics. We're going to cover the Middle East and Iran. We'll talk a little bit about Latin America as well. And I look forward to seeing you then. So make sure you subscribe, paid subscriber, all that shit. I appreciate you guys. I digress. All right, my friends, goodbye. I will see you tomorrow. And I appreciate each and every one of you. So burn bright, resist,